gonna say, just because we talked about breakups previously, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, yo, what y'all gotta understand is because a lot of women have never experienced an actual good man, unfortunately, and then the ones that didn't even recognize that they had good men, and the lack of accountability in which that just don't exist in their world. And it's not a smut. This is just when I say in their world, I'm saying like they wasn't born into it. So the fact that that's not like a prerequisite of womanhood to just be an accountable person, they don't even look at the people, the men that they lost and fucked up with, and talk about that. They only talk about the bad experiences that they've had, and then they just perpetuate that cycle. But what I want the men to understand is, and for the ladies out there, is a difference between somebody being a bad guy and somebody being the bad guy. And what I mean by that is, a bad guy is just a bad guy. This nigga just got bad character. He's abusive. He's manipulative. He's narcissistic. He's just all of the worst possible things that you could possibly be as a man. He's so bad of a guy that the men around him don't even want to be around him. He's so bad that it shows up in his friendships, his relationships with other people, with his mom, with his dad. Like, you just know that this is just a bad dude. I don't want nothing to do with this dude. He doesn't have good character. You can tell if a dude is a bad guy because men won't fuck with him. Men won't respect him. But if you're looking at a man and he get all this respect from men, everybody else in the world, and it's just this one person that it just don't click with, right? And the person is like, oh, he's just that way with Charles. Y'all don't know the real him. 99% of him is that, but the 1% is the 1% that nobody else know but you. But whatever. Now you going out the bad guy, right? And what I mean by that is that's because it don't matter how good of a guy you could be in a relationship. If a woman has a victim mindset, she's going to turn you into the bad guy. What tends to happen is men try to salvage what they can within their character because you want people to not feel like you this badass person, and you try to maintain this sense of, no, you gonna show up in her life to try to show her you're not who she think you is, but in reality you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole that you didn't create. So you got to understand that if a woman has a victim mindset, no matter how good of a man you are, she's gonna turn you into the bad guy. Be okay with being the bad guy, just don't never be a bad guy. Don't never give her evidence to support her claims of you being the bad guy, meaning like you beating on her, you cheating on her, you doing all of these different things that actually, that don't mean every cheater is a bad guy. I'm just saying, like, you don't even want to give her evidence to support that claim of that. You want it to be almost where it's like, nah, like, you're just playing victim. You're not taking accountability. That shit just and people will be able to pick up on that. So I say that to say, like, when you're thinking about it as a man out there, don't overly try to fight hard to prove that you're not a bad. Real people will know and be able to recognize it because it show up in your character. If someone's experiences differentiate that and they make you out to be that, you just got to be okay with that. And I say that because I see on the internet all the time men get painted as the bad guy. And I always question, like, is he really a bad person, or is he just the bad person in your story? Is he just the villain in your story because you got to be the victim? And, you know, it's inevitable, and no matter how good of a man you is, you know, if you run into a woman that's victim-minded, she's going to paint you out of that. So don't think that you less of a man, and don't carry that energy into your next relationship. Stay a good guy and be understood, and be understanding to the fact that if you run into a woman that has that mindset, you might end up the bad guy, and that's okay because it's not on you.
And we can end the plane on this one real quick, and maybe we can.
Damn, where we at?
No,
where we at, Rick? We cool. We got
cool. But how about this? So the idea, you said when you take it to the next one.
Did you have any thoughts with that?
No, I think you just killed that.
All right.
Yeah, that was good.
Don't give me more credit.
It's a good day. Nice weather outside.
Yeah. Good sweatsuit on.
Yeah.
Too.
Learning from your ego.
Ooh, good topic. I wrote about it.
What have been certain experiences or certain chapters in your life, speaking of the book, where you felt like you literally just learned who you are more, learn from the ego, your ego evolved, or you realized you was carrying your ego too much with you? You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because I wrote about it, and I could write a whole book on it, right? So many different elements I could talk about ego. And for me personally, I had to really silence my ego. Like humility is like the base of who I am. Like, I know I'm different, but I don't feel like I'm better than nobody. So I just like be uniquely me. But when you think about the male ego, it's two types of egos you can have. Let's say a weak ego or a strong ego. And weak in the sense of it being like it's easily bothered. It could be interchangeable to however you want to use it, but it's easily bothered. It needs validation. It's an external thing. Whereas though some people could just have this thing where, you know, they know how to tame it. It's like you got to be able to tame your ego and know when to have it. Like the ego is that sense of pride, essentially. That's like, you got me fucked up, I'm gonna show you. As men, we all have egos. We need our egos. And that's why it sucks when women try to destroy it. Because it's like, why try to destroy something that a man needs? Like, he don't, now the weak part of it, when he need all this validation. See, believe it or not, one good woman can stroke a man's ego enough for him not to even be interested in another woman. But what tends to happen is the woman that he wanted from the most tends to withhold it, weaponize it, and put it out as this thing that she don't want to use because she don't want him feeling himself. And it tends to make him seek it from other women, which is where he becomes easily susceptible to trying to entertain other chicks. That's somebody that's whose ego is being destroyed. Some men just have a need and a desire to do that because they never learned how to tame their ego and learn what to use it for. Like, it's okay to be on the basketball court and feel like you that nigga. I'm gonna be the best nigga on this court. I'm that nigga. That's all ego. But it's not okay to be like that in the household. It's not okay to walk up to your kids like, yeah, I'm the wolf, so you better treat me like this. Who you talking? Like, now you're tripping. You're feeling yourself. And I always tell, even in my last race, I would say, like, y'all don't get, like, I don't come in here as this person I am to the world. I come in here completely with humility. I'm in here fucking cleaning up behind people. I'm in here serving people. I'm in here as a human being because that's what I am. Even when I walk into the world, no matter the perspective that the world has or whatever they might experience me to be, when I come in here, ego aside, I had to learn to become that way because when you were successful, as long as I've been successful, had notoriety, as long as I had it, and coming from somebody who didn't have it and didn't obtaining it and feeling like, oh, y'all only fuck with me because I'm on this type of time, and you kind of see the world through that perspective, it can make you be feeling it yourself. And for me, when I talked about conviction earlier, that was another thing where God showed me, like, nigga, you somebody, but you ain't nobody. And it wasn't like you ain't nobody, like you're a nobody. It's just like you ain't above none of this. Like, you're not above bad times. You're not above fuck ups. You're not above mistakes. You're not above ending a relationship. We know you know a lot about relationships, but nigga, you gonna have problems in your relationship too. We know that you wrote 2 books, but you don't got all the answers. So because that's my relationship from my accountability partner, which is God, I got humility, but it ain't a false sense of humility where I'm just humbling myself like I don't know who I am. I know exactly who I am, but I also know my shit stink too. So with that being the case, when we think about ego, as a man, you got to study your ego. You got to know what triggers you. Like, you got to know what makes you insecure. You got to know what empowers you and feed it healthily. Like, if you feel like you like being that nigga, it's okay to want that, but don't crave that in a way to where as though it's like, because the ego is an inflated sense of self, right? And look at it like a balloon. If it's weak, a motherfucker could just simply just say the one thing and it's like a thorn in it. Pop, it's gonna pop it. Motherfucker say, oh, your sneaks corny as shit. Now your whole day fucked up because your whole outfit made you who you was. You gotta be so steadfast within self that it don't matter what you got on. Like, I know who I am, whether I got some designer shit on, whether I'm wearing some regular shit. I make the clothes don't make me. I make the money don't make me. And I say that. So when your ego is strong, you know, like, I know when I need to feel like I'm him. I know when I need to lean on that, but I had to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? And it's in my book, Cheat is Not Cheating. I talk about how it affects people in relationships. And I feel like in the art of accountability, I ain't talk about ego using the word, but I talked about how I self-reflected to become this person that lives with the humility within spirit while still being confident within self. Because I ain't about to shrink myself, but I don't got to sit here and boast either.